their economic status was increasing by leaps and bounds. And that was what it was like on the West Bank when I was there. The only people complaining about Israel presence on the West Bank when I was there in 68, 73 were the upper class. All the others were thrilled. We maintained they like labor unions. They even got, you would see down in the post office every week, they got large family allowances because the Israelis were being consistent about giving out large family bonuses for people who had large families. You could see all the Arab women lined up at the post office down in East Jerusalem taking large family bonuses, which is fine. That's the way a country should be. We maintain unanimously that the economic position of the Palestinian Arabs under Jewish colonization, owing to the Jewish colonization, has become the object of envy of all the surrounding Arab countries. Yes, that is true in 1937. So that the Arabs from those countries show a clear tendency to immigrate into Palestine. He's the only one who said it. And he's already saying it then. I have also shown to you already that in our submission there is no question of ousting Arabs. We don't want to oust anybody. On the contrary, the idea is that Palestine, here it is, on both sides of the Jordan, should hold the Arabs, their progeny, and many millions of Jews too. But the problem is they took the other side of the Jordan away from the mandate. What's presently Transjordan or Jordan, it was part of the mandate. Look at the maps from the League of Nations. What I do deny is that this is a hardship. It's not a hardship of any race, any nation. This man is extremely, again, it's me, of course, who thinks this. You don't have to think this. But you have to acknowledge he's very clear-minded. I may not agree with him. I don't see what you have to disagree with. He's very clear-minded. Well, they hate this guy. The British hate him. The Jews hate him. The labor Zionists hate him. Becomes portrayed as a maniac. I can understand that. The British bar him from Palestine after this. Let's see. I can already mention one of the big nations having their states mighty and powerful who had not one branch living in someone else's state. In other words, you can have people living in, you can have extraterritoriality. That's only normal. There's no hardship attached to that. So when we hear the Arab claim confronting with the Jewish claim, I fully understand that any minority would prefer to be a majority. Sure. But, you know, they can be a minority in our country and we can be a minority in their part of things. There's no big problem here. And as I have just told you, and I didn't get it from reading him, but it's then just common sense. I would also prefer Palestine to be the Arab state number 4, 5, 6. No, try 2021. That I quite understand, but when the Arab claim is confronted with our Jewish demand to be saved, it's like the claims of appetite versus the claims of starvation. Anyway, the decisive point is the terrible balance of need. I now want to establish that this condition was perfectly well known, perfectly realized, perfectly acknowledged by the legislation responsible for the act known as the Balfour Declaration. They understood all these things then. And subsequently the mandate. The paramount question was Jewish distress. They all understood it. I was privileged to take part in our political negotiations with France, England, and Italy from 1915 to 1917. And I was also associated with others who conducted these negotiations. So you see, it's not Weitzman that the British gave anything to. There were many people who were talking to them. And I can assure you that the main argument mentioned in every conversation with the Italian ministers, with Mr. Del Casa in France, Lord Newton here, Lord Balfour, Lord Lloyd George, and with everybody else, was the argument of the terrible Jewish distress. So, especially keen at that moment, England, France, Italy, 3 liberal countries happened to be the allies of the Tsarist Russia. I need not describe to gentlemen of your generation what it meant to an Englishman, and so on. It was the common talk everywhere, the feeling that something should be done to relieve this disaster, the feeling that the disaster was only an acute expression of deep-seated chronic disease, Pinsker. That was alive everywhere. I claim that was the spirit that created the Balfour Declaration. That was the zeitgeist. That was what the spirit was, the recognition that something should be done to save the people. I always thought before coming to England, next paragraph, that if a civilized country, a civilized government assumed to trust the mandate internationally under such conditions, with such implications, dealing with people who have so long suffered, so long hoped, and hopes are, after all, sacred to every Englishman, I expected that government to sit down and prepare a blueprint, a plan, how to do it. I guess the same as the Bush going into Iraq. There should be a blueprint, a plan. What's the next step? Whatever your interpretation of home is, homeland, you see, that was the issue. Promise, there should have been a plan, how to build it. What would be the implication of placing a country, quotes, under such administration, economic and political conditions as might facilitate the establishment of whatever you meant by the Jewish national home? That's what the mandate said, that it should be built up to provide this home. There should be a plan. And the second was that everybody, that was the trust that I've accepted and that we were going to do it. That everyone should know that once we had this plan, that they were going to do it. There should have been a geological survey of both sides of the Jordan. Well, I see he lays it out for them. There should have been, a reclamation and so on. And a parcelization and a reserve for both sides of the Jordan, which Jewish and Arab applicants for agricultural settlement could be satisfied. And guaranteeing of security. British, talking to a nation with your colossal colonizing past experience, surely knows colonization never went on without certain conflicts with the population on the spot, so the country had to be protected. That's what we're facing in Iraq today. Where's the plan, boys? And the Jew never asked to be protected by someone else. This plan should embody the Jewish man that they should demand that they should themselves be allowed to form a protecting body. That's why he always wanted a Jewish army. Jabotinsky, that's why people hated him, because he felt the Jews needed to defend themselves. Self-defense corps. They didn't want help from anyone else to do it. And so this is what everyone expected. I need not tell you how totally disappointed we were in hearing instead always the expression muddling through, in quotes. We always heard we're muddling through, hearing it even mentioned as something desirable and commendable as a kind of system. Muddling through. Or some would call it empiricism, or others would call it going by horse sense. I can only say we suffered greatly under the absence of such a system. We have suffered terribly. Whenever we complained, we got the strange reply. The man on the spot knows better. The administration there knows better. We'd go to London and complain, and they would say, the man on the spot. May I submit most respectfully that the mandate was granted to Great Britain by 50 nations, because those 50 nations believed in Britain's collective experience and conscience, and especially in the fact that their close control of the man on the spot. In other words, you're supposed to be an experienced government, and you can't even control the man on the spot.